Jon Rahm won a golf tournament this week. He lifted the trophy in Mexico City. He hit the shots when they mattered. He did exactly what $300 million is supposed to buy. He won. And when the trophy ceremony ended, when the cameras stopped flashing, when he finally had a moment to himself, he picked up his phone, looked at the screen, and turned it off. Not vibrate, off. Now I want you to sit with that image for a second before we go anywhere else. Because in that one small moment, a world-class athlete winning a tournament and then going dark, there is more truth about where LIV Golf actually stands right now than in anything the league's CEO has said publicly in the last 2 weeks. If you want golf coverage that reads between the lines instead of just repeating the press release, subscribe right now. This is the kind of story that tells you what is really happening underneath the surface. Here is what Rahm actually said, because the quote matters and most coverage is either ignoring it or dramatizing around it without letting the words land properly.
In an interview with the Spanish newspaper ABC after his victory in Mexico City, Rahm said this: "The other day I started getting messages about it, so I turned my phone off." That is a precise, quiet, completely devastating sentence. He did not say he was confident. He did not say the league is fine. He did not repeat the CEO's line about being funded through 2032. He said he was getting messages, plural, enough to overwhelm about the collapse reports, about the Saudi funding story, and the imminent closure language in the Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal. And his response to those messages was not to call LIV's offices and demand clarity. It was not to issue a statement. It was to turn his phone off and wait. That is not confidence. That is a man buying himself time before he has to face something he is not ready to face yet. And here is what makes it worse. He added this: until the people in charge tell him something concrete, he is not going to waste his time thinking about it.
The people in charge. Not his bosses. Not the organization he signed with. The people in charge. Like he is not entirely sure who that is anymore. Like the chain of command inside the league he built his professional reputation around has become unclear enough that he refers to it in the vague third person. The face of LIV Golf. The biggest individual signing in the league's 4-year history. Waiting for someone, anyone at the top to tell him something concrete. And in the meantime, phone off, world out. Now let me tell you why that silence is so loud. Because this did not happen in a vacuum. The week before Mexico City, the Financial Times reported that Saudi Arabia's public investment fund was on the verge of cutting all financial support for LIV Golf. The Wall Street Journal used the words imminent closure. The Athletic independently confirmed the reporting. 3 of the most credible financial and sports news organizations in the world, all pointing in the same direction, all in the same 48 hours.
And then, on the exact same day those stories dropped, the Public Investment Fund released its brand new 5-year domestic investment strategy, a detailed document outlining where Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund intends to direct its resources for the next half-decade. Golf was not mentioned once, not a word, not a footnote, nothing. When the organization funding your league releases its vision for the future and does not include your league in that vision, on the same day the financial press says the league is collapsing, that is not an oversight. That is a document telling you exactly what the next 5 years look like without you in it. Rahm was in Mexico City when those stories broke. The messages started coming in. He looked at his screen, and he turned it off. Here is the part that nobody is saying clearly enough, and I think this is the most important thing in this entire conversation. Rahm had a door, a real structured, defined door back to the PGA Tour. Earlier this year, Commissioner Brian Rolab created a program specifically for a group of 4 players, major winners, who had signed with LIV since 2022.
Rahm was on that list. DeChambeau was on that list. Cameron Smith was on that list. Brooks Koepka was on that list. The price was real. Koepka paid it. $5 million to charity. Forfeited FedEx Cup bonuses. Gave up access to sponsor exemptions worth $20 million. No equity in the tour's for-profit enterprise for 5 years. He paid every part of that and walked through the door in January before the deadline closed. Rahm looked at that price and said no. DeChambeau said no. Smith said no. In January, with LIV still running at full capacity, Saudi money still flowing, contracts fully funded, that decision was defensible. There was no urgency. The league appeared stable. Now the league's broadcast went dark for 3 hours in Mexico City. Reports emerged that players and vendors had not been paid in weeks. The CEO flew across the world to personally reassure players that everything was fine, which is precisely the kind of thing a CEO does when everything is not fine. And Rahm went on television and said the tour is thinking about pathways back.
Thinking about it, not building it, not offering it. Thinking. The door Rahm walked past in January is closed. What comes next is not a program with defined terms and a deadline. It is a negotiation that has not started yet, in a context that grows more complicated for Rahm every single week that passes. And this is the layer that cuts deepest, the one that goes beyond contracts and prize money and broadcast rights. Rahm left the PGA Tour in December 2023. Golf Digest confirmed that the tour believes he may have made that move expecting a PIF PGA Tour merger to finalize almost immediately. A merger that would have resolved everything cleanly, brought both sides together, and made the decision look prescient rather than costly. That merger never happened. He is now 3 years removed from competitive Ryder Cup eligibility. 3 years. The Ryder Cup is not a prize money conversation. There is no number that replaces it. It is the thing elite European players talk about when they talk about why they play the game. It is legacy. It is your country. It is the room you are in when you are 60 years old telling the story of your career.
And Rahm is watching that part of his story go quiet, week by week, while he waits for the people in charge to tell him something concrete. No trophy in Mexico City changes that. No contract clause addresses it. That part of what he gave up is not recoverable by a check. So here is where everything stands right now. And I want you to feel the full weight of this before we close. Jon Rahm won this week. He performed under pressure, he did his job at the highest level, and the headline was not about his golf. It was about whether his league is dying. He admitted he turned his phone off because the messages became too much. He said he will not think about it until someone in charge tells him something real. He is waiting, in silence, for a call that may not come in the form he is hoping for. Koepka understood the moment when it was in front of him. He calculated what the door was worth, paid the price, and walked through it. At the time, some people thought $5 million was steep for the privilege of returning to a tour you used to dominate. Right now, watching what is unfolding in Mexico City and in Riyadh and in the boardrooms where decisions about LIV Golf's future are being made, that price looks like the smartest money anyone in this situation has spent. $300 million brought Rahm to LIV. And right now, the most powerful thing the $300 million man could think to do was hold down a button and watch his screen go dark. You can turn off your phone. You cannot turn off reality. And when Rahm finally powers that device back on, whatever is waiting for him on the other side of that silence is going to define the next chapter of one of the most complicated careers in modern professional golf. Drop a comment right now. Do you think the PGA Tour should make it straightforward for Rahm to come back? Or should the price be higher than what Koepka paid given how long he waited and what the tour offered him? Because that question is at the center of everything that happens next. I want to know where real golf fans stand on this. Subscribe if you want coverage that goes beneath the headline and connects the dots most channels miss. Share this with anyone following the LIV collapse story, because this is the piece of it that is most personal and most important and least covered properly. See you in the next one.